What's going on? It's Justeeni here. The Vengir qualifier thingy, World Championship thingy, you know what I'm talking about, hopefully, has finished. The best Vengir player of 2026 is going to be between either Crocs or Mythic RNG. This is the grand finals of it. So in case you guys missed it, you can see it. This set was kind of crazy, I'm not going to lie. But yeah, let's get right into things again. So Crocs is the one hosting this game. Mythic in the south. It's a best of 3 mirror match on small lakes, as per usual. And these Vengir mirror matches are especially interesting, seeing how they play, because it's not something you actually see very often at all. But we see both sides just going for a typical mining strategy. Pretty normal. You see Mythic has some more mines to work with, but Crocs gets a fishing rune, which could prove to be useful since he does have port spots. Lots of port spots, actually. But Mythic getting the fast expansion, gets the Explorer going. Unfortunately, does hit a dead end, so not very useful. There's a rune there. He meets the opponent, decides to use that to play a bit more on the economic side. Now Crocs also getting meaning stars, choosing to upgrade and making a sword, opting to have more units, play more defensively possibly. See another Explorer, really just spamming those city upgrades, 8-star per turn on turn 5s, not too bad by Vengir standards. Crocs choosing to spam more units with double the unit count currently of Mythic RNG, while Mythic is just upgrading cities like crazy, stepping on this new city, and now training some warriors. Very, very bare bones with the army here. Crocs getting a port, now expanding, upgrading the cities, catching up in economy, getting the Explorer to see what's going on, seeing all the stuff that Mythic has. The Mythic getting the sword rune, which is kind of bailing him out a little bit because he has low end units, but now he's actually going to be able to pressure a lot, going for riding to start some sort of attack maybe. Crocs taking out the warrior, upgrading, now making plenty of swords on defense, spending 10 stars on units because you can. More units by Mythic. Another kill by the sword. And then we see here, taking out that sword, walling to keep this rider safe. But here this is actually a pretty fatal misplay because you're supposed to kill this sword. You can do it with a, I believe that should kill, or at the very least you can use the rider to help if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you could use this and rider and that. But why is this sword so important? Well, because it has 2 out of 3 kills. And this is something you always need to keep track of in the Vengir mirror match, especially. Veterans are important, but in the Vengir mirror match, they can absolutely turn things around. And we see just that. Veteran sword. Now, it didn't heal too much, just 5 extra HP, but still pretty devastating nonetheless. This sword is way harder to kill now. Quite a lot more problematic, but this sword dies over here. Mythic still able to put up a lot of pressure thanks to that momentum with that vet sword. Crocs defending, having to spend again a lot on defense, but he is expanding. He's got a bunch of potential port connections on his capital. He just needs to connect everything, and then he could have a giant going soon, but he makes a warrior on the capital, which is actually just allowing the sword to siege. Now Mythic going for roads, bouncing into this city, covering this so then he can't use the animal. And it looks like he might be holding it, but then a population ruin. And because of the fact that he just blocked with the riders, that means the port connection is actually going to Houdini the sword that he just sieged with. However, there's no way to unsiege this city here, so Mythic is still going to take that. But then not only that, this city's left open, and it cannot be unsieged. And at this point, despite getting the Houdini and the giant, Crocs resigns, seeing that Mythic is going to be able to get Grand Bazaar, get a giant of his own. And this is pretty hard to keep up with, despite the giant. I think this is a bit of an early resignation, because maybe you do still have counterplay, but Crocs decides to throw in the towel anyway. Anyway, though, Mythic up 1 point to 0. So on to the next game. Alright, game 2. This time, Mythic in the north hosting versus Crocs in the east hosting. Or not hosting, sorry. And yeah, let's get right into things. So Crocs in a must-win situation, so hopefully the spawn is generous to him, and it is. However, Mythic steals a suburb, which is pretty rough. But having these really nice mines definitely does feel good as Crocs. So we see mining, both sides upgrading on turn 3. And there's not a lot of avenues of attack this time around, so Mythic choosing to not attack. This water in the way makes it very hard to do anything. Going for the Explorer instead, move the sword back to funnel the Explorer. And that is going to get the Lighthouse. Lighthouse very useful with Vengir because it gives you that level 3 capital, since you always basically have 4 population on the capital with mining and forge. But lots of mines by Crocs. 4 mines is great news for Vengir, especially versus the 2 that Mythic has. And there's a few level 2 forge spots. This is going to be a very good setup, especially for what seems to be a greedier game. And now Mythic going for this really nice play here, ignoring the village, knowing that he's guaranteed to get it anyway, going for the ruin instead, and potentially this village over here, which he does have vision of. Crocs, on the other hand, choosing to go very greedy. I approve of this play. You don't always want to attack with Vengir. This is a perfect situation to just sit back, eco up, and potentially get some markets going. You actually have a nice level 6 and level 4. Mythic also choosing to go greedy with forestry, which makes a lot of sense since you are lacking in mines. We see Explore Ruin. Does get the Lighthouse, so it's not all bad, but it's not great either. Mythic gets a very nice Pop Ruin, which is super useful here. Again, it's all about greed right now, so a Population Ruin giving him a giant straight up, which is also going to lead to Park of Fortune, which he can place to start to get things really going. This Pop Ruin might just save him here, because we see roads leading into trade soon. However, he goes for the road connections first. I don't actually agree with this play. He spends 9 stars to get 2 star per turn when he really needs to get trade. Get this market here for 4 star per turn, then get forestry, so then you have 6 star per turn. Get another market, who knows where, like maybe here, and then get your sawmill ready with something like this, and then maybe even here, because why not? Or you can, like, I don't know. You need your markets though. In fact, you actually get a level 8 market here if you've got like sawmill. I think this road connection is a bit premature. It gives you a star per turn in the long term, yes, but you're going to get those anyway, and you need the short term like markets that give you a star per turn now. Mythic getting a very nice star ruin to get math recap. He's still a long ways from trade, but you can see he's setting up his own markets, leaving plenty of room, deciding to be aggressive, hitting that warrior there. Sawmills going. And another upgrade there. Mythic with a good amount of extra income, but trade is going to make up for that unless we see the sword here trying to keep a hold of the city, which he will be able to. But again, this is the issue with these roads. He's just not getting the markets. He could have gotten them turn 9, no problem, and gotten the sword as well. But instead, he's just short on stars. And that's going to be pretty costly because now Mythic is setting up his own markets. He's still a ways from it, but his markets are going to be very strong due to the sawmills. Very, very strong sawmills here. Again, despite the lack of mines. Now we see hunting pre-cap. Setting up for forestry. Now, only on turn 10 do we see the market go down, which feels a little bit late, especially since now we see roads from Mythic getting ready to grab trade. We see sacrificing the warrior, which wasn't actually necessary, but now trade from Mythic. Turn 12 markets, not too far behind actually, and Mythic's economy is going to skyrocket to 41 star per turn on turn 12, which is just really good in general, versus only 27. Yes, 2 markets, 10 star per turn of markets, but neglecting to develop all this and just taking too long to set up these markets. You just don't have a lot of stars. You do at least have your techs mostly out of the way. You still need math, so really you're kind of like really behind actually. Again, you really needed those markets. Ruins also helped Mythic quite a bit here, but in any case, the slow markets are quite rough. We do see some more upgrades, getting the super units going. Now another explode here. Grabbing the lighthouse. And yeah, Crocs can see Mythic's markets here. Bunch of super units, which might be nice for potential attack, but it will be very hard to attack again with this sort of like choke point in the middle of the map. Now we see fishing, getting another super unit, continuing to just have those markets go crazy. Again, Vengir, like, don't sleep on Vengir's economy. You can get some really crazy markets. It's not easy to get these kinds of markets, but like, it's still only turn 13. 53 star per turn. Certainly nothing to scoff at in general, and in this mirror match especially, very strong. Now also getting into the water. Again, whenever you're up in economy, this is just kind of classic fundamentals. The more stars you have, the more things you can do. So when you have more stars than the opponent, try to force them to do more things, because you're going to be able to do it better. If you just focus on doing one thing, like just focus on the land or just focus on the naval, then the opponent can potentially still outperform you, even with fewer star per turn. But focusing on everything at once will kind of force the opponent to address too many things. And right now they need to focus on economy, but they can't also focus on economy while also dealing with the land situation, while also dealing with the naval. And you can see the naval is being completely neglected right now. Mythic continuing to improve the economy while at the same time going to be able to go into the water, getting that extra giant. And we're going to see some serious snowballing with these markets. Now the bridge plays are going to start to happen. Again, we have roads because we already have trade. Now really starting to be aggressive here, taking this village, these units in the water. Crocs having to defend, stepping off the ruin to do so. Making lots of catapults, hopefully just trying to stabilize things so that maybe that star advantage will start to mean less and less. If both sides have a lot of stars, then maybe, just maybe, you can create some sort of defensive setup here. It's looking a bit unlikely, but it is still worth trying anyway. You are in a must-win situation here in Crocs. You gotta pull every stop that you can. Now, more giants from Mythic. 66 star per turn on turn 16. Now, climbing, fishing, getting the Explorer, which just goes backwards, unfortunately. Very sad ruin. Crocs, unfortunately, just doesn't have the mythical RNG. I get it, guys, because it's like the name of it. I hope you guys found that funny. Anyway, though, we see a very nice Justeeni at least, maybe counterattacking in the water. This could be the lucky break that Crocs needs. Maybe you just ignore everything that's going on land, and maybe this is fine, except the bomber anyway, and that's going to be very rough. There's a giant here that wants to go into the city. This juggernaut here, unfortunately, is placed where it can just get absolutely bombarded. And now they have to immediately retreat from the naval, and it's just looking bleak. We have all these catapults, again, just hoping to create some sort of standstill. If you can get a blockade, then that economy advantage from Mythic won't matter, but it's only if you can really create a solid defense. Unfortunately, you are not Hoodrick, and this strip of water is going to be too much on top of... well, we see Crocs going for chivalry at least. One more out. If you can get some big chains, some big outplays, maybe, just maybe, but Mythic already has knights as well, and he goes for the bridge play. Crocs failing to play around this. And unfortunately, it's just going to be the nail in the coffin here. It was already looking pretty bleak. But now, at this point, Mythic is getting a comfortable city advantage. Very, very ahead in economy. Now climbing as well. It's just too much. And leaving absolutely nothing for Crocs to work with. There is no counter chain. So it's just GG's. Mythic going with a clean 2-0 sweep. The first time we've seen a clean sweep in the grand finals. Doing it with Vengir. Two very nicely played games on Mythic's part. Lots of solid outplays. Managing to get things done in seemingly unlikely scenarios. So shout out Mythic. Hopefully he can prove me wrong about Vengir. I do really, really want to see Vengir make it to Sweden because it'd be super funny. I think if you get lucky enough, it's certainly possible, but only time will tell. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Like and sub, and have a good one.